talk about the whole gamut of what happens in our society, how we build our houses. As people of faith, we have to be concerned, the Bible says, about part creation or all of creation. It is all of creation, of course. So being concerned about all of creation is also how we build our houses, how we eat our foods, etc. And we'll be going into detail a little bit more in each workshop. But I'd like to open it up to the floor if you have questions for our two panelists.
On what the architect Otieno has said, and it's about that you are doing research and advising the government. And since you are an architect, I just thought about some of the building materials, like the tiles we are using in our houses. I happened to be in Mombasa some times back, and I saw a lot of containers labeled bamboo flooring. We are importing a lot of materials made from bamboo to put in our houses for the floor. Yes. And bamboo is a crop that grows very easily, very fast. It's a crop that is good for soil erosion. It's a crop that is good for carbon, as a carbon sink. So are you trying some of these technologies and advising the government?
My question actually is to both panelists. To Nico Green, could you tell us more about the using agricultural waste for building? How does that work? And to Sabina, tell us more about healing the soil.
Affairs of the Baha'is of Kenya. So it's not actually a question, but it's a contribution. So I think as we are sitting in this room, it's more like we have asked some questions to them, like they're all the experts. But I was walking in, I saw very nice exhibitions out there. And I think it would be very, I don't know how to put it, but it will be more of learning. It's more of consultation, like we share our experiences. Because it's not like they have the expertise, but it's not like they know everything. So that's my point. Like it should be more of a consultation.
I agree. I mean, maybe you're doing something that's so awesome that we need to hear about as well. So let's continue to have that dialogue about what's going on. But maybe they can answer some questions, and if anyone else has a contribution, please do that.
Yeah, thanks, Evelyn. I would pick from where you just left also to echo your sentiments. That it's a conversation. And so I shied off from presenting our whole list like our CV or the organizational profile. So just we are able to more converse and see what you're saying. I mean, what you're doing, and also share our experiences. But if I can delve into some of the points, questions raised. First, Jean is asking about the bamboo tiles. So as Nico Green, I said for a very specific reason as an organization, we looked at 4 service avenues because we think that transformation of Africa really requires all people bringing in their expertise and working together to really lead the change. So you need research, you need the academia, you need the government to provide enabling policy. The academia, obviously, they need to contribute in terms of knowledge that is translated to provide solutions in the marketplace. So our research and development, not just the research for testing the theories, but also to translate this into real solutions. Then you need practitioners, you and I, who are in the community, who are able to uptake some of those solutions that convert the challenges into opportunities. And then, of course, you need also innovators. You need to provide technology solutions. So if I come specifically to your question on tiles, and because this conversation is largely on agriculture, and I think some people maybe were wondering, why building and agriculture? And is Reverend Phyllis out of her mind to bring that conversation? But I think the question you raised, particularly on tiles and bamboo, brings the connection because most of us in Africa, we may want to think only agriculture is only for food production. Yes, that is a very critical point of it. But then there is also agriculture that produces crops that are not necessarily food crops. And one of those crops which high economic value are bamboo. And so how can our farmers within our communities be able to also diversify and be able to enhance their livelihoods if they were to take up bamboo production to the level that we have enough stock of bamboo that can actually provide enough feedstock for producing a whole, there's a big value chain of products that can be made from bamboo, not only tiles. You have actually over 100 products that can be made from bamboo. You're talking of tiles, but if you go in around Kenya, bamboo, by the way, for some of you, there's a species that is stronger than this steel that you're using on the window. You can actually use the bamboo stem itself as a column and a beam for building without any modification on it, and it will perform structurally better than what we have as our steel. You can have it used in many things. You have a roof. If you go to Laikipia, you have a roof that is fully just done on the bamboo, with the bamboo as itself, without any modification. What does it mean for our communities, even in the churches, in the faith organizations where we are working? If we are able to farm at a scale that we can provide the feedstock, then you are able to catalyze the production. So I know in Kenya, Nico Green ourselves, we are not producing tile. But I know of a very young woman. She was actually a year behind me in campus, and we started working with her on sustainability issues there. And she has spent like the past 10 years developing bamboo tiles in Kenya. And she still faces a challenge, even if you have been able to test the production. As a manufacturer, how would you be able to guarantee supply if the women of faith today wanted 300 boxes of bamboo-made tiles from our local suppliers? Would you be able to get that supply to be able to produce? There may be a challenge because do you have enough bamboo stock to supply? So there is a great opportunity for us. There comes also the issue of research and development. That how then do we also use our innovative Juakali people to be able to make simple machinery that a women group in Turkana or a women group in Kakamega can be able to use to, pre-prepare the bamboo stock to be able to do the production, then that somebody can take to do further value addition and get the product in the marketplace. So if you look at the agriculture value chain, right from the production to the value addition to the end product, you find that there's a great opportunity. But there are other materials beyond the tiles, the bamboo. So I bring that conversation to link with what Josephine has asked, just to paint the bigger picture of agriculture in the built environment. And you particularly asked questions about agricultural residues. So many of us, if we look at Kenya and Africa, some of the crops that we produce, especially when we talk about cereals, we have maize crops, we have straw, we have straw from rice, we have straw from oats, all these that we are producing at scale. What do we do with them on our farm after production? In most cases, very few people get them composted back into the soil to do the soil regeneration, but in most cases, we have them burned. And when we are burning them, what are we doing? We are actually releasing the carbon that has been absorbed by these materials into the air. So we are contributing to climate change. But these are very rich materials. They are very high in terms of fiber content that they can be building materials. So what we are doing as Nico Green, and there are already solutions outside there in the home. We have a whole stream of boards you can be able to create. Panel board, so you replace the MDF timber board which you are importing from all different foreign countries with high carbon footprint. We are also not getting that money goes to the economy. We can actually be able to produce a lot of building materials from those agricultural byproducts. It is possible for you to bring in grass. It is possible for you to bring in maize stock. It is possible to bring wheat stock. Combining that, and you produce a very strong building materials that is able to hold together well, and you build your house that you are not worried about what is the harmful chemical in it. That house made from that block becomes very good to help you adapt to climate. You are in a dry area where there is a lot of heat. You have a heavy mass, a heavy material made from your local material, the soil and the agricultural residue. But then the temperature is hot outside, is high. You are feeling very cool inside. And when it is cold outside, like in the highlands of Kenya, the house remains warm, it keeps heat for so long. So it is a solution that is naturally locally available, but then you are taking advantage of these materials. How do we then move from, very basic rudimentary production and thinking of the soil and the grass in my community is not a modern material to feel that it is actually a house that is aesthetically and architecturally appealing. That's why some people like us, we are trying to test this and bring them to scale so that you are able to see them. Then beyond the agricultural byproduce, if I just conclude my sentiments on the other aspect of agricultural production, agriculture as a sector also consumes resources to produce. And if you think about agriculture and food production, particularly food production and packaging, even in our exhibition here, we have amazing exhibitions, but they are done what? They are packaged. What materials are used in packaging? You find that a good part of the packaging materials we are using for food is made of plastic. In fact, plastics in agriculture, 91% of plastic in agriculture is on packaging. Whether you are packaging the fertilizers or you are packaging the processed food that is going to the market. Where does that plastic end up in? It ends up back in our environment. What are we doing about it? So it's already a problem that we have, but can we be able to even harness that plastic bag and be able to responsibly manage that plastic? So again, if you go to our tent, you will see there a couple of building materials that have been made from recycled plastic, including, roofing tiles, you have paving blocks, we are making, panel doors. We are looking at currently some of the materials that we have made, okay, for agriculture sector, for example, within your farm, you don't have to have expensive roofing sheets. Maybe you just need a farm shed for your animal production. Probably you could use then either the agricultural byproducts from the bamboo or for the sugarcane, or you can use recycled plastic and do your nice farm shed. We are currently exploring working with even the women in urban area. They sell their food in the markets. And we are talking about climate change in open air. What happens to them as heat stress, heat waves continue to arrive, become stronger because of climate change? They are more vulnerable. They'll be exposed to diseases. Can we be able to provide better workspaces, even simple structures for the women in the market that are again built with materials like, some of those materials, the waste we get from the market, if we're able to support the women, they create an ecosystem that they can collect back these waste. This waste can be taken back into production, produce building materials, then these materials construct for them proper market stalls. Then they don't have to be exposed to the sun while they are selling their foodware. So if we are thinking about agriculture, food production, and built environment, my thinking is to move us to think around the entire system, from right food production to the end value and the byproducts, and see how we can close the loops. We could discuss the solutions up to the end of the day, but those are just a few highlights I wanted to bring to the fore. Thank you.
So that at least we can improve the productivity of our land. We look at the chemical fertilizers and the acidity. And our soil, like when you go to the central Kenya, I am telling you the production in central Kenya, you take an acre of land and you imagine you can get a sack of maize. It is more than impossible, and they can attest if they are here. Basically, that is what we are talking about. So what we are saying is, we are trying to look at a grassroots woman who has a chicken, a goat, a cow, a rabbit, and they can use all the droppings and put in their farm, so that at least from there, the soil now, we can say we are using composite manure, so that we can make the soil healthy, and also we make sure at least there is the organic matter which is going to help us to just be able to heal our soil from the acidic fertilizer which we have used for a very long time. And from there we are seeing, like, if we can just go back and we ask ourselves, at what point did we find ourselves in a situation where we cannot even feed ourselves, and we have now to go for genetically modified products? It is because the soil fertility is so depleted, and that is the reason why we are doing this. We are advocating for our land to be left fallow. We can leave our land for about 3 years, so that at least the fertility can be, it can become fertile again. And that is what we are doing. We are doing small things with a great vision that one day we are going to leave this earth a better place for our grandchildren, so that at least they will look back and say, yes, our grandparents were real stewards, and we have inherited a good land. Thank you.
So how do you balance between healing the soil and also increasing productivity. In our experience, we tried with the indigenous maize seed. I've seen one somewhere there, from one cob, and increased it to almost half an acre, and now it has increased. But we noticed also that the yield is decreasing. So I'm in a forum of agro specialists, and I asked, is there a specialist who can advise on how to improve the yield, the seed quality? Because replanting the way we used to do, you notice that progressively you will not get a better yield. The quality decreases. So in terms of research, who is helping the farmers, even as we promote indigenous varieties, to improve on the seed quality so that successive generations are better? And maybe just to ask about the balance between livelihood and healing the soil. You know, how do you advise the smallholder farmer on that?
Like, let us use the little spaces that we have and we use them well so that at least we can maximize on the production. The creativity, planting seeds in a tree, in a can, in a sack. That is what we grassroots women are doing. Yes, the kitchen gardens.
Information alone is not enough. People need action-oriented information to create change. Then for Nick, you are advising government on policy issues. Are you able to effect serious government policy changes? Because the problem here is people don't understand that land is limited. The land which was created in Kenya does not add. The original what was there is still the same land, but people are using it as if there is more to claim to bear. It is not there. So what can we do at policy levels? And that relates to the question which now comments. My brother here asked about seed quality. Seed quality can still be done. We are just prisoners of Monsanto's. They are creating gene bank for modified crops. It is planted once and you buy next year. So traditionally, all over Africa, during harvest, we chose the best seeds, put them under smoke to be bitter, fresh up to next year, wash, you plant, they grow. That is where we need to go back to.
We do have a policy within our congregation to buy the products of the country, wherever we live. So, if I buy the carrots and all of this, and then we peel them and things like this, so I put them as a compost. But they have been not organic. They have been raised according to whatever. And so I'm putting back, actually, again, fertilizers, because that's how they have grown up. How good is that? I don't know. The other thing is what I would like to say is about, is there an awareness within Kenya? Like, I'm not in Kenya, I'm just nearly 1 year here now, but awareness of to buy local, meaning that I buy not the garlic from China, but the garlic from Egypt, not from Egypt, from Kenya. So is there an awareness in people to do that? Because I think that is one important point of having the awareness that I buy the fruit and vegetables, whatever I go to the market, comes from Kenya and not from very far away, which is again, how you say, like, because it has to come by ship or it comes by things, like it's all this kind of, the road, the transportation, all of it somehow is expensive and kind of contributes to the thing. That's my two questions.
What I want to ask is actually about organic vegetables. Is there a growing market in Kenya? I've lived here for 20 years and I still haven't found a good place to buy organic vegetables that are not horrendously expensive? And is there a way that maybe the church could be a good place to actually promote organic vegetables, that we eat it from the earth and we use the organic fertilizers? So is that something the church could do much more? Because I think the market, from what I know, the market is not able to do it. And what we eat is full of pesticides. And if I put all my leftovers into a compost, it's full of pesticides.
Sisters grow amazingly organic food. And so when I said, I was rushing and I stopped by the store, and he gives me that look, it's like, I'm not going to eat it, you eat it. So buy it from the sisters, okay? Domestic sisters have amazing, and other sisters that are around us have amazing fruits and vegetables that are naturally grown. So once we get that market out, sisters, you're going to be very busy because they're going to be coming to you.
And imagine if the sisters were using electric motorcycles and you could actually serve the communities that are not near you.
I think this links with what Jean also talked about, market linkages. You're also talking of where can I get this? Do you know? Okay, even we are talking of organic. Organic comes in all shades. Like sister, I forgot, I didn't get her name.
Well, in Sweden now, my name is Juliana. I'm originally from Austria, but I live all my life in the Middle East. Now in Kenya.
Yeah, Sister Juliana has mentioned. At some point, do we also know, are we able to also validate how organic is organic? Yeah, and apart from the look that Phyllis talks about, which is subjective, is there also possibility to be able to test? So I think partnerships is very key.
Yes.
This conversation to me sets a good ground for amplifying what we already somehow, partners in the room and the others we know who are not here already doing, can be amplified. And one of the things I see as a possibility is we can start our small farm gardens. Yes, we could be doing growing into the community. But you and I know that one of the challenges we have in Kenya, even in the rural community, I'm glad I saw there is a team of, there's a women's group from Viga who are doing amazing work in Viga. Yeah, but then for you to get that coming to Nairobi, and by the time you get that food, it just becomes so expensive because the market infrastructure is broken. So you have a few people who do organic farming, they end up remaining with their product. And in some cases, their vegetables go bad because they can't sell to themselves. And if they have to sell it through middlemen who will make more money from the vegetables than the actual farmers, then you have these conscious consumers on the other side, especially in urban areas, who are more aware of the impact of what they're eating. They want, but I don't want to buy the vegetables. If the other one I'm buying at 100 shillings enough for my family, I don't want to buy at 300 shillings. If I could pay premium, but probably if I pay 150, 130, I would be fine. So I need to get it accessible, but at affordable price. So what is my proposition, what I see? At Nico Green, we think a lot in innovation and we do testing and move for policy. So one of the things that we have created for waste supply chain, and I see that could be something we could explore. As I mentioned, when you are producing with virgin materials, you always know if I want raw plastic, I can get it from Muhindi Fulani, from this shop in enough quantities. I can ship it from which part, it will be here within 3 days. But if you set up your production that you're producing a recycled or a reused material, the question you begin asking, okay, including the organic fertilizer, if you want today, you want to produce 10 tons per week of your organic fertilizer and you have orders for farmers, the challenge you want to begin asking is, will I be able to enough get, yes, I know that theoretically there is organic waste in the market, but will I have enough supply? So you need the supply chain. So what we created is we created a digital platform, particularly looking to be able to provide feedstocks for waste materials and connection suppliers. What I am thinking as a challenge that Nico Green would be very open to explore with the faith-based organizations here and the partners in the room. Can we think of, even having a specific platform and marketplace that connects the value chain actors in organic food? And we could start within a small space within Nairobi that we can be able to map out and, Sister Juliana and her community in whichever place, this other group in Karen, they are producing, there are all these people who are demanding. Then in what you do is you're able to aggregate producers, then you aggregate suppliers, then you can be able to bring other supply chain actors. So for example, what my sister is mentioning, once we've known, for example, in Westlands, we have like 20 households that are ordering, they want to order organic vegetables. And we know within Kawangware all this year we have these farmers and they produce this much. We are able to link them, and we can link that demand and be able to say, okay, to produce the cost, we can actually link up with scooters, the e-bike providers. We can link with Uber, and we are able to make the delivery so that when she gets her vegetables at 6 p.m. in Westlands, she's not going to pay 300 shillings for transporting it because it has been aggregated with hers, and hers. These other guys are picked from so and so, and then we're able to also link with the other women group who are producing organic manures, which the farmers are using to farm. They are selling, linking to the market. So Nico Green, I am proposing we would be very keen to be able to work on how do we leverage even digital technology and work with the actors so that we create a platform that can link us so that we add value to each other's work and we make it easier and accessible to compete with what has become normal but unhealthy. Thank you.
Just to add on to what you have said, every person's contribution, it is very important that we look, when we look at our situation. Personally, I have walked into a number of supermarkets and I asked them, do you have a shelf for organic food? They don't have any. Yeah, they really do not have any, especially in Nairobi. So the whole idea is, because I cannot buy from the supermarket, I cannot get. What if I just plant my own for my family? You plant something small for your own family, and we start from there. As I said, Green Faith is not a very old organization, but what we are trying to do is that we are trying to change our way of thinking. We are trying to make ourselves do those small contributions, so that at least if I start farming organically for my own family, the surplus I can take to a neighbor. Yeah? So it is just about starting small. When we went to Turkana, we found that there were wells that had been dug. And what happened is that this is a well for oil, and there is another well where people are supposed to fetch water. And you could see a top layer of oil in that water. So you can imagine the medical effects of such to our people. And that's the very reason why I talked about children having STIs, and I saw someone do like this. And let me tell you one thing. Children were afraid of even passing urine. The mothers were saying, my children do not, when a child imagines that I'm going to go to the loo, they start crying because of the pain associated with passing urine, which we take as a very normal thing. So what we are trying to say is that the aftermath of the drilling of oil wells in Turkana left a lot of pain to the residents of Turkana. And we are trying to say, as women of faith, at the local level, we can help them to start now. They can start now having clean water. We are advocating the local leaders to just try and dig wells where the ones not bordering the oil wells, so that at least they can pipe this water and it reaches the women at the grassroots. And then from there, we tell a woman, you can plant your own small quantities of food, you plant your vegetables, you plant your greens there, and at the end of the day, we change their situation. So we are trying to say, as women, the government itself is not very forthcoming. We know our situation because our leaders at the local level, they'll come to Nairobi and they settle there. So what we are trying to say, this woman who is left there, do not cast the darkness. Find a way of getting a candle so that you can see some light. And we are happy because the Catholics and the sisters, they are all over. Yeah, they are at every diocese, and I know even the women in Lodwar, Turkana, they are also getting the benefits of being assisted by the local churches there. this organization is working with the local leaders, religious leaders, to try and change the situation of our people. The other issue I wanted to say is that we need to partner. We need to have linkages so that we can learn from each other. We can share experiences. A forum like this one is going to change the way we think, isn't it? Yeah, because if they are doing it, I can always ask him, how are you doing it? So that at least I can borrow and live from him. So all these things are very, very important. The other thing is that I have talked about the issue of starting from the family, the issue of using our churches, our religious organizations to promote organic farming. And let me say, GMO is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But we are trying to reverse the situation, and we say we want to make sure, at least from a very small perspective, we can do something that is going to make me not go to the shop every day, because the levels of poverty in the rural women, it is very high. We are finding women who cannot even buy even a piece of bread. Yeah? So they have to rely on the small things. You go to a place, I remember we would go to a place, you find someone, you have a lesson, and you are like, I have a dress and I have a lesson, let me give this one to them. I'm not going. So the levels of poverty are also very high. So we are going to work together as organizations, the different organizations represented here, so that we can change the woman who is not as gifted the way we are. Thank you.
I think.
Ref, may you allow me to respond to his questions on policy influencing? And I would just try to talk a little bit with reference to agriculture. Yes, our governments are very static, but from my experience working with the government is that also our approach to advocacy is also wrong. Our government officials, if we are able to also show them what is practical and demonstrate, and number two also, like if you are pushing incentives, still tell them how are they going to still raise revenues, more money while they're influencing the policy. And I think if you show that, it works. And I think we have gained a bit of success. The work we have done in household air pollution, where mostly in this country we are talking of household air pollution, the smoke in the kitchen, largely it was an environmental conversation, and it wasn't really getting the traction. I think we have been able to move from a point right now, the government has taken the smoke in the kitchen, the silent killer, as a very serious issue. And how did we move this from? We provided evidence. There is a paper policy brief that we actually did that was able to showcase to the government that why inaction, as much as they're spending millions of shillings on health, but you have under 5 mortality, that is actually a good percentage of part of it that you are able to link with the actual energy used in the household. You are talking of the health of the elderly, and you are having Linda Mama and the elder care, and you are sending these millions as a social protection to deal with these old men. But on the other hand, because of the policies, the neglect on this issue, you are spending more. So that level of awareness to the government to be able to see with economic modeling that you could actually reduce the expenses on health by investing more on promoting households, clean household solutions. So that has moved to the point that if many of you would be keen, but you may not be aware in this country now, clean cooking is not only agenda of the Ministry of Energy, it's a big agenda of Ministry of Health, and we successfully moved from a policy brief. We translated that into a training module, and now the government of Kenya has a training called it Module 14, which is embedded in what they are using for training the community health practitioners. We used to call them CHVs. So there are over 11,000 community health workers. When they go to a household currently in this country, at least we have piloted for around 7 counties. They go when they are checking, the way they are checking of how heavy or light is the kid, they are also checking which fuel are you using, all that, and then they have the models to be able to refer them. But specific to the built environment problem, we have had a very old building code of 1968. Successfully through, of course, Nico Green, myself, we have played our part, but other stakeholders have also contributed. Our code finally was revised. And now our new building code appreciates environmental conservation. And one of the things that you could not do before, you could not do, as an architect, you could not promote urban farming in the building because the code would not allow you. For example, in waste management, you had to provide an incinerator next to your gate as a code requirement. Now that is not in the code. Now the code allows for us to be able to have urban innovations to promote urban agriculture. For example, we can do vertical gardens. We can be able to do green walls. We can be able to now, you can ask your architects. The problem is that it depends on whether your architects are aware. You can be able to do your walls and design them, and you don't need to be limited on the small space that the land you have. But you have all this roof surface. You have all the windows that we have. You can still do those ones, what you are hanging, which my colleague was speaking about, but can you create it into the integration as the balcony? You can do serious farming, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It only needs to be thought about, included. And lastly, planning policies. Of course, there is still room to be able to push with the government. I think the issue of land fragmentation is significantly affecting our agricultural production, where everybody, kila mtu wants to get a plot. Maguta, we want to cut 80 by 40, we want to have 100 by 50, and we are all converting most of our productive agricultural land in an uncontrolled way to, human settlements. That is still an issue that we have to deal with. And it's also tied with a cultural awareness. Because for Luo people like us, who still believe that you have to build a simba and every son must have his own boma, his own homestead and build, and they come to visit those homes for a few days in a year, that has a cultural awareness which has to be enforced by also regulation to be able to help people still appreciate that we don't necessarily have to keep building and splitting our parcels of land into smaller plots that are untenable and we are affecting food production. But in urban areas where we already have small spaces, we have to think about how do we use both the vertical space and use our buildings here so that our buildings are net producers of food, not just only consumers. Thank you.
To look at collaboration, and Brother Nixon also began that conversation of how do we collaborate together. But we have a multi-faith group that we'd like to call up now. So you're going to have to take their chairs, and then we come up to you.
Yeah. I believe agriculture is the basis of the community. I believe a farmer should be treated in same equality to royalty. Because without them, the entire community, the entire nation is nothing, actually. So basically, I'm here to learn, and part of that learning, we believe in consultation, sharing of information from wherever we come from. And but for a start, I'll present like what the Baha'i faith does. And then we'll see how we go from there. So. The Baha'i faith is integral in its part. So there are three aspects of it. There is social action. And then on the part of social action, there are Baha'i community schools. And also there are Baha'i-inspired organizations. And then the other part of the Baha'i faith is expansion and consolidation. So that is the part whereby you know what the Baha'i faith really is and what it advocates for. And then there's participating in prevalent discourses of the society, like peace, importance of oneness, climate changes. And today's discussion actually is somehow intertwined. So it's more of not dealing with these aspects as in isolation, but trying to see how they're both integral as a part. We believe agriculture is the secret ingredient to global peace and prosperity. And as I had said, the farmer is the first agent in human society. So without the farmer, there cannot be schools. Without the farmers, there cannot be a society. Without the farmers, there cannot be a church. Without the farmers, there cannot be an entire society at all. So when the farming system has been stabilized in a community, it brings certain aspects. Like when there are special agricultural projects, when a special agricultural project has gotten established, for example, in a rural area, it opens the way for other beneficial community development in form of like roads, creation of local produce markets, crafts, rural financing, business education, healthcare, and sanitation. So when you go to a current education system has isolated knowledge. So we tend to learn to mathematics in isolation of science, science in isolation of agriculture. But at the end of the day, we tend to combining the ideological of these things. Like there's a relationship between agriculture and science. And there's also a relationship between science and agriculture. And also, agriculture provides the sustenance of all humanity, and engaging in agricultural work is considered as a form of worship also. Since today morning, I've had very wonderful contribution, and one person mentioned that when you look at the society right now, there is a gap, and we really wanting to see what can remedy the situation in agriculture. But that one gap is faith-based organization. You know, the faith-based organization, there is a reason for that organization, because it's not in isolation like I had mentioned before. So the morals taught in the schools or in the projects has a baseline of the qualities like love, patience, care, working for the importance of humanity, unity, and all that. So to continue on that, I'd like to talk a bit on social action. I will talk a lot. So right now there are 170 Baha'i-inspired organizations in the world. In Africa, we have 15 organizations. In East Africa, there are 2 organizations. There is Mwelekeo in Kenya, Mwelekeo organization in Kenya, and there is Kimanyangeo in Jinja, Uganda. So the organization in Jinja, Uganda is is established. It's where all Baha'is organizations learn from it, because it kind of started in 2007. It's an old organization where all others learn from it. So it was set on a basis of Baha'i ideals, like community goals. It's more of letting the people in rural environment to own their land, and not like they're doing it for someone else, but owning the land for the benefits of the society. So Kimanya is a Bantu word. It means knowledge, and also Ngeo is a Luo word. So Luo actually is an ethnic group, in Uganda. It also means knowledge. So it's basically gaining of knowledge. And it did introduce a program of sustainable organic farming methods to oversee a reduction of chemicals in farm produce. So if you compare right now and before, the chances, the cases of cancer has really gotten high as compared to before. And one of the researches that have been done by the World Health Organization is basically farming, modern farming techniques, using of too much chemicals on produce, on farm produce, and at the end of the day, you see it affects everyone. And also the waste products that are released in the environment and all that. So the formation of this organization, its basic ideal was to see the introduction of sustainable organic farming methods. And from what we've all shared, the acquiring of organic manure and producing it and seeing how it can benefit the entire community at once. And also, before engaging in that in the organization, Baha'i faith organizations, there is usually a process. There is, it's called the preparation of a social action. It's I don't know how I can put it, but it's a program whereby people who volunteer to learn, they learn more about mathematics capability, scientific and technological capabilities, experience also in business, and language capabilities. So you find that someone who didn't have the opportunity to go to school can also get some kind of knowledge. So after they've gotten that knowledge, the program is usually in a period of within 3 years. And after going through the preparation for social action, then they come back, start projects, and this is actually focused in the rural area, because there's land that is available, and then they oversee from production, and that is planting and up to the final product, and also following up to the markets, and also ensuring there is proper waste disposal system. So it's a complete cycle of an entire event. So the approach of education in this organization is, one is integrated curriculum, which emphasizes both academic learning and character development, fostering spiritual and moral qualities. So there are a lot of things that are happening in the world right now, and coming from war, climate changes, to mention that a few. And people are really trying to see what they can do to bring change. But the change lies on the spiritual aspect of growth. So that is what is missing in the society right now. So as faith-based communities, it is highly encouraged to serve as a light in our community and impact growth on our communities. And I have two points left. There is community involvement, and this is strong focus on community participation with villages, parents, and elders to establish and manage schools, ensuring local ownership, and also service to society, which encourages young people to channel their knowledge to contribute to the social, economic, and spiritual well-being of community.
Beverly, could you tell us from the Baha'i tradition, these women that are all sitting here from many different faith traditions, how do you see the Baha'is collaborating on the issues that you have discussed and we have been discussing?
Okay, it's a very nice question actually. So one of the principles of the Baha'i faith is the importance of women, and also establishing of equality of men and women in the community. So they are both seen as an integral part in the aspect of livelihood. And when relating it to farming, I would say in the indigenous community, you will see that a woman as an individual who would just come out and have the roles were so specific, and but compared to now, it's more of how each of them help in the agricultural processes.
The domestic sisters, when I was in Rome and I was speaking to one of the sisters about what we're doing and who was doing things on health, and she said, I have the domestic sisters who are actually they're located in my backyard basically, and I didn't realize what they're doing. So when I went to see all the things that they're doing, one of the sisters, Sister Rhoda, said to me, don't say any more. Let me go and show you what we do. And when I saw all the things, they said, this is for this, and this is for that, and this is for this, I ran home and said to my husband, oh my goodness, we must go there and see what they're doing. This is absolutely amazing. She will tell you a little bit more and tell you also the testimony of one of the sisters of what she went through with her health challenges and where she is now. She will also tell you about the machine that they have downstairs that will test, not say, oh sister, you have high blood pressure, but the causations of a high blood pressure. They have it downstairs. If you want to be tested, there is a small fee. Now, after she speaks a few questions, and I have to gotta give a big thank you to, and I'll tell you about the thank you a little bit later. But Sister Rose.
Thank you. I'm Sister Rose, a domestic sister. And I thank God for this chance that we are in this forum here, because we are the one to change the world.
Amen.
And to go back to the roots. And I'm here just to talk about African heritage foods that came. And Reverend has just said, I'm going to tell a story. I'll be very brief, because the story that I'm going to share with you is about how did we start this? How did it happen that we are supporting African heritage foods that came?
Can everyone hear her?
Do you get me?
Maybe speak up a little, maybe stand up. If you stand up.
Okay. I'm going to talk about African heritage food that came. And we are supporting this. And why did we come to support this as domestic systems? It comes as a result of healing of our one sister called Sister Margaret. Maybe many have met her. Unfortunately, she could not make it come here. I left her at home continuing with the rest of the work. So we do have it. And we also support natural and organic farming. My sister was sick many years back. She had a blessed cancer. We moved from one hospital to the other. And we were told, now where we have arrived, just go back to your sister home and take palliative care at home. And that's what we did, because all the doctors, all oncologists, all those people, name them, they are unable to continue with treatment with her. And she was, by then, she had 43 kgs. And unfortunately, she died on my hand, so I was taking care of her. And I could always pray, Lord, let not your servant die on my hand. And we met somebody known as Canon Karaja, an SEK pastor. If you go down there, you meet the juice that he made. That juice, sister took one bottle in a week. It is called Eden juice. Even if you go to YouTube, Eden juice is there. And its health benefits are there. Many health benefits depending on your situation and your scenario. So sister took just one bottle and she was good. Whenever I take food, she is eating. Porridge, she is able to take. I was wondering, what is it? What has changed? Only to realize that the cell, through the chemo, radio, were all destroyed. But now, this one bottle of juice, which is 750 ml, it is a fermented juice from fruits. And in we have the herbs, different kinds of herbs. It has regenerated new cells in her body, such that the sister whom could not eat now can eat on her own. And this became like a miracle. And many people who used to come to visit her, that is back 2018, 2019, were like, what did you do, sister? That you are now walking on your foot. Because she was always on her bed, we could go, do everything, and at least give her social company. We could accompany her on her bed. And because of this, many came to listen to her story. And after listening to her story, we were like, what do we do? Because many people want to be helped. How do we? And then we asked Canon Karanja, cannot. We have no money because for us, our life is very different. How can you help us with that Eden juice? That is a miracle for our sister. We also introduce it to other patients who are neglected or are being taken palliative care at home. And he gave us a carton of 12 bottles. And after 1 week, the carton of 12 bottles, we could sell at 1,000. The carton of 12 bottles got finished. Then we are like, what is the Spirit of God saying? Because you cannot just stand there and say, go to Juja, where Canon is. You have to start something. And that is how we landed to supplements. Because we do supplements and we really support natural food that heal. This one, I base it from the prophet Ezekiel. That is, Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 12, it says, their fruit will serve for food, and their leaves for healing. Their fruits will serve for food, and their leaves for healing. Actually, sister is a nurse. The one, my sister who is at home, Sister Margaret. But before, when you could go to the hospital and you have your herbs, he could tell you keep your herbs aside. And I will treat you. But today he is speaking another language. Do this. Continue with your conventional medication, but I will treat you. So she is able to combine. So, African heritage food are deeply rooted in traditional wisdom and natural healing. Many of them are nutrient-dense, medicinal, and support long-term health. Here is a list of African heritage food and their health benefits. When my sister was giving her talk, I was like, why are you in my mind?
We never met.
We never met and we don't know each other. So, what are we talking about? African heritage food. We used to have cassava. We used to have sweet potatoes. We used to have arrowroots. Name them the potatoes. Rock of vegetables. But what happened? They can no longer yield again because we have destroyed the soil and we have gone to the artificial or conventional things that we want to do quicker after 3 months. I have my harvest. Okay? That is where we have destroyed all our cells. The child is growing, taking magaragara. When child cries, when your child cries, you need a juice. It is okay. But it is a cold. I remember when I was being brought up, we could have the pumpkin. We could eat those merengue as our breakfast. We could eat those vegetables at the evening. But a time reached and we are like, if a family of so and so is eating merengue, it is poverty. But those food had a lot of minerals. That today, the same food may not have those minerals because our soil is polluted. And that's why we are suffering diabetes. That's why we are suffering cancer. That is why we are suffering anemia, leukemia, name them. We are not dealing with the root causes. You want to run? I have a migraine. By then, if I could tell my mother, oh, Mom, I feel I have some headache, she could just go and cut 2 leaves of neem. And somebody mentioned about murubaine. And she could boil and give me. And that goes. But today, what do? Take this money, run to the shop, take a Panadol or Brufen, and then we only treat the symptoms, but not the cause. So we are not working on what we had. Those what we used to eat, we ate cassava, we termed it for the poor, but it's very rich.
Amen.
The maize, they were all good, but now we keep our food in freezer, fridge, because we want to be westernized. So when we remove them, and as I said this, I'm also a victim. When we take that maize from the fridge, those vegetables, everything, no nutrients. It's just to satisfy the hunger. Nothing absorbing from that food that was in deep freezer or in fridge. And I was happy because some of us here spoke of preserving the food locally, because it was there. Somebody mentioned about potatoes. They were organically grown. We could prepare the land, and then when the rain comes, we could plant, and after a few months, we could harvest. But today we have to spray. Today we have to put those, and we are the only animals who eat the food which are sprayed. So it's something that we are going to see, and how can we work on it. Just to mention some of the herbs or trees, in every culture I know, there is a certain tree or a certain plant that was used to heal some diseases. But today we are not going for that. If I feel here, the finger here is aching, I will run to the hospital, which is good. But we have left our heritage, African heritage. For example, we have moringa. Some have already been mentioned. Moringa is a great immune booster that helps us to remain energetic. We also have something like rosemary. For what? For memory. We also have something like cayenne. Cayenne is pepper. In many African countries, it's known as pilipili or pilipili kali. What its benefit? You are talking about blood thinning. Talked about blood thinning. So, its benefit is to improve blood circulation, and it stimulates blood flow and strengthen the arteries, veins, and capillaries. Because when your blood is heavy, even if you go to rest, the following day in the morning you are tired. We used to plant it, and now we can go back in our homes. Just have a pinch of it, put it in hot water, drink. And it is very medicinal for cholesterol purposes, for high blood pressure, for blood circulation, for digestion, among many others. Cayenne pepper. In case you need to know more, you can visit us there. We have a tent. We also used to have something like lemongrass. Who have come across lemongrass? We take it every day. Yeah. It is a tea. It is a tea that cleanses the liver, kidney, bladder, and it supports overall detoxification. Because the environment we are living in is already polluted. So we need to keep doing a lot of detoxification. And it promotes healthy blood circulation. Because here we are always dealing with, if your blood is not circulating well in your body, even if you take what you're always like, I'm not energetic, I'm fatigued. So we usually take milk. Milk is good, but we used to ferment the milk. Anything that is fermented is good for your body. But when it is not fermented, it's just cholesterol that we are adding in our body. Yes, we can take it as our tea, but we have to minimize